Hello everyone, I hope you are excited to be tuning into another video, and I know it's a little bit later tonight, but I actually do have a job and things that I have to do during my day. And on a Thursday night I actually go and train clients. I take a strength class and then a high intensity HIIT style session after that. So just getting home from work, and I thought I would jump on, and we're going to talk basically today about diets in a little bit more depth. We are going to basically delve into why your diet actually can potentially make you fatter long term. And I think that it's a massive topic that it's been talked about a lot, but I think it's definitely something that we need to constantly talk about and understand the repercussions of, is that the right word? I don't know if that's the right word. Repercussions is the word I'm trying to say. I told you it's been a long day. Of what can happen if we are constantly dieting all the time, and why this dieting cycle can potentially make you even fatter long term. And trust me, I've been there. I've experienced it. I've had the rebound and the weight gain because of said diets making you gain weight. I deal with it all the time with female clients. So if you have any questions on this topic at all, any questions about dieting, any questions relating to that, please jump them on. I want these lives to be interactive and go through the questions that you guys want to answer. I didn't prepare a massive amount of content tonight, so I'm basically just ready to roll. I loved the live last night where we just kind of chatted about certain topics. But basically what I'm trying to talk about tonight is basically the reason why when you often do a dieting phase or a period of dieting where you're in a caloric deficit is basically what a diet is. And often after this period of time, let's say that's 6, 8, 10, 12, even more. Sometimes people will diet for 6 months, for 12 months, for a really long extended period of time when they're in a caloric deficit, that afterwards they tend to have a lot of weight regain very quickly, a lot of rebound, and a lot of people don't understand why this happens and why they really struggle to maybe maintain what they lost in that deficit, or not even maintain, but let's say for example you're dieting for a bodybuilding show, you're not going to be able to maintain comp lean, but it might be a case of, you know, gaining a little bit of body fat to a healthy body fat range. And I think that healthy body fat range is a massive things to talk about, because there's a difference between, I think you're going to see my dogs around in the background. There's a big difference between dieting to get to a healthy level of body fat and dieting to get comp lean. And comp lean by any means is not healthy. It's not maintainable if you are dieting for a show very aggressively, and people know that going in. So people doing a bodybuilding show will know going in that they're dieting for the show. They're not going to be able to maintain that after, but the goal afterwards is to reverse out healthily and try to maintain a form of healthy level of body fat year round. Now, the problem being with the average person doing any diet in society is that often you're dieting to get to a certain point, and when you hit that point, you often struggle to know what to do afterwards. And that is why often diets are obviously making you fatter as well. So I'm going to pull up the questions as we go through live on my computer, because it is hard to see it on the phone when I'm going through, so that I can be more interactive with you guys, because I've got it charging tonight because it almost died last night during the live videos. It seems to chew through the battery. But basically the biggest thing that I see that goes wrong in terms of dieting and why people's diets are making them fatter is 3 big reasons. All right, number 1, the calories are way too low when they start the dieting phase. And what I mean by this is you might be starting on anywhere from, for a female, let's say for example, from anywhere from like 1,000 calories to 1,500 calories at the start of a diet deficit is very low, especially if you're someone who is active. And I highly think that people undereat and overtrain the majority of the time. Now, if you're going into a diet and you're already on such low calories, you've got no room to move, which basically ends you in a really negative position down the line, which is not a great thing for us. Hi, Paulie. Paul's just jumped on. And now you can see one of my dogs in the background, and she's going to come and lick her butt in the back of the video. So I do apologize for that. I've just got home, so they want to see me. So one of the biggest problems is starting on too low calories. That is a massive one. And then the second one, in terms of why a lot of diets are making you fatter, is that you're going too aggressively with certain macronutrients. So it might be a case of the fact that you're dropping carbs right out of your diet, which will have you feeling like shit, being really flat, fatigued, not train well, have poor recovery. Or it might be a case of the other way around and dropping your fats way too low, and then having an effect on your hormones, your mood, your focus, your energy. fats and carbs play such significant roles within the body, which is what we talked about over the last few days in the live videos. So if you haven't watched those, go back in and jump in and watch them. And that is another massive problem with diets, that they're just too extreme. Now, the other one is that they have unrealistic expectations. And what I mean by that is they will be wanting you to, say, drop a couple of kilos per week, and very unrealistic results, or extreme results, and extreme results often result in a rebound. So you may do some diet, it's very extreme, it's low calories, they change your macros around, so it's different to what you've been having before. You get really good results. Okay, tell me if this is you. You get really good results for, like, I don't know, 3, 4, maybe even 5 weeks. And then you just completely fall off. Like, give the video a thumbs up if this is you. You get good results, you drop a couple of kilos, you're starting to feel good, and then all of a sudden you hit a plateau and you don't know where to go with it. And often what happens after that is you actually start gaining weight, and you can't figure out why you're gaining weight when you're doing the same thing, eating the same thing. All of these variables are in place, but the problem is with that is that you've hit a plateau, your metabolism is basically at a standstill, and you're not doing anything to fix that. And that is why so many diets out there fail, is that they don't look after your metabolism, and then they often make you fat over time. Can you look at this creep here? Buffy, what are you doing? She just wants to be in the video. So that is a massive problem with them, and I want to hear from you guys. What are the biggest questions that you have in terms of dieting? You can ask any other questions on even the videos that we did last night, before I kind of delve into talking about ways of kind of fixing this as well. So the big thing in terms of dieting is that we want to make sure that we find the right diet that's going to work for each individual person. And I think that's something really, really important to understand. Now, what is the perfect diet? It is like the age-old question that everyone wants to know. What's the perfect diet? What's the perfect meal plan that I should be eating? What is the perfect amount of cardio to do for fat loss? What is the perfect amount of resistance training? These are the questions that I get asked, I would say, over email daily. That people email me and say, can you write me up a meal plan for fat loss? Or can you tell me what calories to eat for fat loss? It doesn't work that simply. And I am here to say that there is no perfect diet. There is no one way to skin a cat, basically. And there is also not one perfect fit for each individual person. And that's why when it comes to nutrition and dieting, it needs to be an individualized approach. And if you are buying a meal plan, if you are buying anything generic, you are simply wasting your time and money. Because like I said, you may get results for a couple of weeks, you may get results even for a couple of months, but over time, if you're eating the same generic meal plan you've bought off the internet for $20 and you're expecting amazing results from it, you shouldn't. Like, for that price and what you're paying for, you might expect to have a change in terms of maybe your energy's improved just because you're eating more whole foods. You may just feel a little bit better overall. You may be less bloated. You may drop a couple of kilos, but then nothing's going to happen long term. You're not going to see an actual significance in your body composition change. Maybe if your training changes, but again, in a general sense, this is why a basic meal plan that you buy off the net isn't going to work long term, because it needs to be custom to what you're doing. And I guess it's like an ethics thing at the end of the day too. When I went through university and studied nutrition, which is what I did, we actually got taught ethically that you shouldn't, and well, you're not allowed really to actually even give out meal plans, and especially generic ones for that sense. But it seems to be every Tom, Dick and Harry's giving out meal plans these days. And there's nothing we can really do about it besides educate. And I think that that's something I've learned over the years. I think it used to infuriate me a little bit when I used to see people who are just personal trainers giving out nutritional advice with no qualifications, and people who really had no nutritional background writing out meal plans. And it still does frustrate me a little bit. But at the end of the day in life, you can't take on those frustrations. You can't let those frustrations own you. So what you have to do to step forward in life is educate people so that they're more educated to not buy into that, and to also understand that that plan isn't going to work for them long term, that they need something that's customized. You know, you need a nutritional regime that if you're a mum and you've got 3 kids and someone tells you to eat 6 small meals a day, that is not going to happen. Like, let's be real. When are you going to fit that in? Or if somebody tells you that, you know, you can't have carbohydrates for the first 3 meals of the day, but you train in the morning and you ask them what you change around that time and they say nothing, they say stick to your plan, that's not going to work for you long term. There needs to be flexibility. There needs to be an understanding and a respect for not only the nutrition to respect you, but you to respect it. So what I mean by that is it needs to reflect your lifestyle. It needs to fit in with you. It needs to give you some form of balance in terms of not being obsessive over food, but then also fit into what you're doing day to day. And the biggest one, the most important thing that people need to understand when it comes to finding a diet that suits them is that it needs to be able to be compliant to. You need to be able to do it. If you get given a plan that is so freaking hard and so complicated and has no actual explanation as to why you need to do X, Y, and Z, and you say ask a coach and they don't give you any answers, then it's probably not going to be something that's going to work long term and or educate you. So you need to find something that you're able to comply to, and that's really important. I'm not saying that's going to be easy. I think when it comes down to compliancy and a diet, even if you're macro tracking, it's still hard, it's still work. You're still entering things into a tracker. You're still, feeding back to a coach and you're making changes. Oh, my dog's being really noisy. You're still doing all of these things day to day, but it's not as complicated as some of the diets out there and so restrictive. So a good diet needs to be flexible. That's one big, massive tick for me. You need to be able to comply to it and be flexible. I'm going to shut the door to kick the dogs out. All right, they're done. So you need to be able to be flexible in terms of what you're doing diet-wise. And what I mean by flexible is it doesn't mean, oh, I just feel like eating chocolate today, so I'm just going to have a block. My diet should be flexible enough for, to interact with that and be completely fine and not gain weight. It doesn't happen that simply. But what I mean by that is if you say are going out to dinner and you're at a restaurant, and let's say, for example, they don't have the food that's on your meal plan. So your meal plan says, oh, I need to eat chicken and sweet potato and green beans and some olive oil. And at the menu, there is no plain chicken. There is no steamed vegetables. There is none of this stuff that you can actually get when you're out at a burger joint with your friends on a Saturday night and they're looking at you and you're the person in the corner racking your brain at this menu, trying to understand what things you can fit in with your diet and how to still get results. I truly believe that a good diet or nutritional regime that still promotes fat loss is one where you can still be social, one where you can still go out and have a life, one where if you don't have something in your house, in your pantry, in your cupboard, you run out of things. Like I went to go eat dinner tonight and I'd run out of chicken breast, but we had some turkey mince and we had some steak and different things in there. A diet should be able to have that flexibility that you can change it up and fit certain things in but still get results. And that's the most important thing at the end of the day. And I just think that there's so many bad diets out there and so many misconceptions, and I would love to hear you guys questions, things that you're struggling with. I want to hear from you. I see there's like 30 people watching this and no one's commenting. So I want to hear from you. What are some of the bad fad diets that you've heard of, or things that you want to ask questions about diet-wise? What are some of the stuff that you find that you really get stuck on and you're not sure how to kind of filter out the bullshit from the reality? And I guess a big thing, going back to talking about the problems with these diets at the start. So obviously setting you up on low calories, not supporting your metabolism, and going too aggressively in terms of fat loss. Now, that all might sound good because a lot of women in particular, and I'm going to be very sexist here, but women seem to want results really fast. Sometimes if I tell my male clients that they're going to have to gain a little bit of muscle and gain a little bit of body fat for a good 6 months, build their metabolism before we go into a dieting or deficit phase and getting them their, summer six pack, they are pretty good with that. A lot of the time with female clients, not all, but they will struggle if you tell them to eat more. If you tell them that you need to eat more physically to lose weight, they won't believe you. They will believe that that is not possible. And they won't trust you that that's going to happen. And I've been running a program at the moment called Breakthrough, which has been amazing. And we've had some girls in there. And for the first few weeks of the program, first 8 weeks actually of the program, we increased their caloric intake. And they're coming in wanting to lose fat, and we're boosting their calories up. And then when they were doing their measurements, for the first few weeks they were dropping. they were decreasing and they were eating almost, you know, some of them double the foods they were on coming in. And the reason being for that is that they've been in this starvation state for so long that their body is like, thank God you're actually feeding me food. And it's actually allowing them to metabolize and be more efficient with chewing through that food. The other thing we did with the program is they actually reduced their training volume. They decrease stress in their life. They focus on external factors like sleep, stress, cortisol, all of these things that people forget about. And when you're overtraining and undereating, you can guarantee your body is in a stress state, and that is going to prevent you from losing fat a lot of the time. People don't respect stress and sleep. They are two of the biggest secrets when it comes to getting results. So I will stop there and read some of your questions. All right, so Paul, hi Paul again. How long can someone be in a caloric deficit for? Good question. I actually wrote about this today. And what are good weight loss targets weekly? When is the time right for refeed? Okay, big questions in there. So let's do the first one first. How long should you be in a caloric deficit for? That is definitely individual, and it comes down to how much fat you want to lose is another big one. The other big one for me is I want to know where the client is beforehand. So if they've been eating in a caloric surplus and eating really well and they're on a good amount of calories and we've got heaps of flexibility, they can probably go into a deficit for a bit of a longer period of time. Now, for example, I've got a lot of females who come to me and they're not eating a lot. So the problem being with that is if they want to go into a deficit, let's say they have to and we don't get time to do a reverse, they're going on holiday or something's happening and I've only got say 4 or 5 weeks to, you know, do this, then I will probably shorten the deficit, but then make sure afterwards we're doing a really long reversing period and really bringing their calories up to sustain on. So yeah, I guess, Paul, it comes down to the calories you're on at the moment, how healthy your body is, because I don't ever put anyone into a deficit when they're in an unhealthy place. And I think that that's something really, really important to focus on as well. In terms of realistic goals, it depends. If you're monitoring body fat, then I would say anywhere from like 0.5% a week is good, even 0.2 for someone with a smaller frame. If you have more fat, you can generally speaking drop more body fat per week without it having any detrimental effects to muscle mass. But I'd say anything more than about 1% or so a week, you may be sort of tapping into you know, any sort of damage there. But really, like if we're talking body fat specifically, yeah, anywhere from 0.2 to 1.2, anywhere around there, even 1.5 if you have a good week. But if we're talking kilos on a scale, which I don't always go by for fat loss, but if we are talking kilos on a scale, I don't like my clients who are a smaller frame dropping any more than about ½ kilo a week. Again, someone that's got more fat to shift, we can push up to maybe 1 kilo. And again, in terms of the time in a caloric deficit, it more depends on how aggressive the deficit is. So let's say, for example, I have a client and they've been dieting for, I don't know, let's say 16 weeks and their calories are now down quite low. Say they're a female and they're down around like 1,400, 1,500 calories. They're exercising a fair bit. It's getting quite low and uncomfortable for me. I don't really like to push it too much lower than that. Again, with competitors, you do sometimes have to go more aggressively. So what I would do is base it around the time that they are dropping their calories very low and starting to hit plateaus is a good time to get out of a deficit. If they're feeling like shit, that's a really good warning sign. So if your client tells you they've got no sex drive, they're tired all the time, they're fatigued, get them the fuck out of the deficit, okay? Your health and your happiness is more important than being in this place. It might be time for a diet break. It might be time to reverse diet for even just a short period of time, or they don't really believe in short deficits all the time. But just even a diet break for a few weeks and pull them out of it can be a good way rather than completely stopping the deficit, because your health is number one. So I think that's really important. I can't actually see the last question. It kind of makes me go over the screen. What was the last one? Cool. And then Paul said, when is the right time to use a refeed? All right, refeeds I generally use when a client hits a plateau or they have a very fast period of fat loss. So let's say, for example, I have a male client, and I do have one at the moment. I'm prepping my boyfriend for his show. And I've told him that he's going to get a big refeed when he drops on the scale significantly or he hits a plateau. So if he drops, say for him, anything more than 1 kilo a week is not what we want because he may be starting to lose muscle mass, then I will probably throw in a refeed at that point. Also, if somebody is not getting results for a couple of weeks in a row, say they're not dropping and they're not having any refeeds or high days, then it might also be a good time to throw that in. They're all the main times. I think you need to earn a refeed. I've actually cut mine out at the moment because I didn't drop massively last week. I dropped 0.2 and I'm aiming for about 0.5 kilo a week at the moment in my deficit, and my goal is if I hit a big drop, so say I have a big loss on my weigh-in on Sunday, then I'll probably have a refeed again. So it kind of comes down to that. So are you hitting a plateau or are you getting massive drops? That's probably a good idea when you need a refeed. Often, which goes hand in hand with that, is hunger. So if you're really, really hungry, starving and dropping, have some more food. That's a really big sign. It means that things are working well, but you don't want to beat yourself down so that your hunger actually drops and it affects leptin and everything like that going on. All right, next question. Hope that helps, Paulie. Were they good answers? Cool. So Jessica, hello. I'm training at CrossFit 4 times a week and I have no idea how much I should be eating. I've been told I need to eat more, but how much? I am always under the impression I need, and then it's cut the rest of your question off. So I can't read the rest of that. I don't know why it's doing that. It's really weird. Okay, so first up, Jess, thanks for your question. But I will not be the person that's going to tell you how much you should eat because I don't know anything about you. You really can't give out recommendations when you know nothing about the person. I don't know what your weight is. I don't know what your goal is. If your goal is fat loss or muscle gain, it may have cut out in the question. I'm really sorry if it did. But what I'm trying to say to you is it's a really good idea. First up, understand how much you're eating now. So what I would do is track your food on an app like MyFitnessPal for a couple of days. If you don't know how to use it, I've got a video on my YouTube, how to use MyFitnessPal. Track it for a couple of days, Jess. See what you're intaking. And if they're telling you you need to eat more, let's say, for example, you're fatigued or you're dropping weight, whatever it is, the reason being that coaches are telling you to eat more is up to them. Then I would look at what you're having and probably assess that and increase it from there. Because if you don't actually know what your current intake is, then it's really, really important to increase it. You said, I have no idea how much I should be eating, so I'm assuming that also means you have no idea what you're on now. But if you already know what you're on, great, then just bump it up. Like slowly bring it up. Maybe that's 100 to 200 calories a week and spread that over carbs and fats and go from there. That's a really good way of doing it. I mean, it's weird that they're just telling you to eat more. I would definitely be asking them, you know, like more specific questions. How much more? What do you want me to eat? Ask them. If you've got coaches there and they're helping you, they should be telling you these things. So yeah, it's really important to eat a lot as CrossFitters, and a lot of CrossFitters undereat, and I work with a lot of CrossFitters diet-wise. The biggest thing that CrossFitters a lot of the time, generalization again, is undereating carbs. This training that you're doing is so aerobic, but then also a mix of anaerobic. You're burning through so much glycogen, and it's really, really important to keep your carbs up and then also keep your fats up because you're going to be utilizing them as well with some of your longer workouts. So I would say bump your carbs and your fats up and just have a look at what you're intaking now and slowly add calories from there rather than just jumping it up a massive amount and then obviously gaining weight or feeling sluggish, all of these sort of things with rapid jumps in calories. I hope that helps. Kelly, mine is more around pregnancy. Since having a baby, I found I've been looking yo-yo diets and doubting my normal ways. I did IFYM and I lost 40 kilos and loved it, but I'm now struggling. Cool, again, it's cut off your question. So pregnancy and yo-yoing. So you said you lost 40 kilos. I'm not sure if that was before or after the baby. But I definitely think, I mean, if you got results doing it, then go back to it. The biggest thing with yo-yoing is a lot of the time with these meal plans is there's no accountability. And I think that that's a massive thing. You need accountability. So let's say, for example, you buy these generic plans, whatever it is, and you've got no one there to actually support you through it. You've got no community. You've got no one being like, how'd you go with your meal this week? You need that if you're someone that is struggling with the yo-yo and it's more mindset related. So I think a lot of the time we need to figure out when it comes to results, is it mindset that's holding us back, or is it actually just the diet itself and that it's crap? And that's a massive one. So I have some of my clients, for example, who follow a more flexible dieting approach, but a lot of the time they just have an issue with compliancy. And then we have to really discuss, where their mindset's at, where their head's at, why they're not compliant, why these things are occurring, and what motivates them. I think a big one, Kelly, is motivation. Like, you want to find out what motivates you, and also making sure that you're enjoying your training. is a really big one. So I think, yeah, it's a hard one for me to answer there, but obviously I think a big one is that you probably need support and you need some people around you to uplift you in your journey. And I think being part of some form of, program, it's kind of why I invented my breakthrough program. It's kind of what we're about. Supportive community of women who, sometimes struggle and lose their way, and they need people there for them, as well as that accountability of coaching too and checking in every week and stuff like that. So yeah, I think maybe you just haven't quite found the right plan for you or the right program or system. So just keep looking and finding something that you feel like really fits your lifestyle and mold, rather than settling for something maybe cheap on the internet that might be, a generic plan or whatever it is. So I hope that helps. Mel Jones, not sure. Okay, Shanae Jade Fisher. There's so much out there, so I read up on them. So I read up on them all, and I get confused how much carbs, fat, etc. I should be having, and it gets too confusing. That can be a massive thing, and I think honestly, when you get overwhelmed and confused by all the info out there, hire a coach. And I know you're going to say, well, you're a coach and that's why you're saying this. I'm not saying you have to hire me. I am very busy, but I'm just saying that it's a really good idea to hire someone that's going to specifically tell you what to do and explain it to you when you have questions. My clients ask me so many damn questions, and I try to answer them. If I don't know the answer, I will tell them I'll go research it. I make sure that I kind of filter out a lot of the bullshit for them, and that's part of my job. My job goes well and truly beyond just adjusting goals and nutrition. It's crazy. Like, I'm constantly researching for my clients, trying to upgrade their experience, trying to help them filter out things that aren't true. It's just a big part of it. So I think that if you haven't worked with a coach, I would invest in doing it. I learned so much from hiring coaches when I was first getting into the industry. When I worked with Layne Norton, and I've worked with John Meadows and other coaches, and I've learned so much from hiring a coach. And I do believe that a lot of coaches need coaches. It helps you. And I think that you get educated. I would say like 50% of my clients are personal trainers or people studying sports science, nutrition, because they want to learn. Obviously, I don't know everything. I'm definitely no guru, but I have had 10 years of experience working with clients along with university, and over that time I've accumulated a lot of knowledge. So I'm hoping that in most aspects and areas I can help my clients with stuff. So I think that's a big one. Yeah, if you're confused and you're reading all the stuff out there, it's probably because you also maybe need to stick to one thing, try it, see if it works, and give it enough time. A lot of time people are impatient and they'll try something for like a week or two and be like, it's not working, and then jump onto the next thing, rather than actually being patient and seeing what happens and seeing how your body responds. Try different diets, try different things, see what works for you. I've tried them all, like, low carb, high carb, carb cycling, intermittent fasting, what else? Intuitive eating I did last year, like so many different things. Try it all and see what works for you at the end of the day. And then if you're still confused and lost, then hire a coach, and put your value in that. All right, one of my clients, hi Eileen. Eileen asks me about 1 million questions a week, so thank you for another one. No, I'm just teasing. She's an awesome little client, and she's always super keen on learning because she's wanting to become a PT one day as well. I find a lot of people worry too much about sugar content in certain foods. What's your opinion on how much sugar intake affects you to have on weight loss? Okay, sugar I'm definitely going to talk about in another video because it's probably too much of a big topic, but I did touch on it in the carbohydrate video. I definitely don't think that sugar is something that the general population have to worry about. People with issues with insulin and diabetes, of course, they have to factor that in when they're following any sort of dietary regime. But I do think people get confused between carbs and sugar. At the end of the day, they are same in terms of macros. So I think that's something that people need to understand. When you're buying a product, I never really look at the sugar content that often. I generally look at the carbs per 100 grams and then look at it from there. And you've got to understand that any processed food will, well, not any, but a lot of processed foods will tend to have a higher sugar content than more whole foods. So that's why, generally speaking, for most of my carb sources, I will tend to just choose for the least processed as well, unless it's around training, like I said last night, and that's when I'll eat my high sugar, my cereal, all of that. But honestly, at the end of the day, sugar is going to be metabolized very similar to carbohydrates, and well, the same. You don't have to worry about it. It just gets broken down into glucose a lot faster than what some other forms do. And generally speaking, it comes down to fiber content in a food as well, and that's something that people need to understand. If it's high sugar, but it's also high fiber, it's not such a bad thing because it does slow down the gastric emptying and keeps you feeling full. So fruit, for example, even though it's quite high sugar, fructose, it's actually very high fiber, so it doesn't actually tend to be that high GI. So if we're looking at GI and GL, that's another topic for another day, but definitely do a little bit more research on that as well. So yeah, sugar is something you don't want to have to fear, but you've got to respect what it does. And if something's massively high sugar, you are probably going to get a little bit of an energy high than an energy low. And that's why it's good to have kind of around a training session. But generally speaking, during the day, it's not a great thing to be packing your day in with a lot of sugar. More from an energy standpoint than fat loss. It's not going to have any effect on your fat loss, really, but it's going to have an effect maybe on your energy going up and going down if you're having really high, big hits of sugar. So generally speaking, my biggest recommendation is lower GI foods during the day and away from training, and then having those higher GI or more sugar-based foods or things you don't have to stress about as much around your workouts. If you're not training, then obviously you probably don't need as high sugar intake. But again, it's not something you have to worry about. We need to focus on what's the most important thing for fat loss. A caloric deficit. Sugar, same amount as carbs. So simple. Okay, so I'm gonna do one last question because it's 8:30 and I didn't have some dinner and it's been a very long day and I'm probably still gonna stay up and do work. Because I'm a little workaholic. So Zoe, hey Alice, 2 questions. First, what's your opinion on protein shakes as a meal replacement? Okay, Zoe, go and watch the first live video I did because that is all about that topic. So I don't think I need to go into it again, but definitely go watch that first video where I talked about the use of protein powder and protein shakes and where I would recommend them. Because that pretty much will answer it all for you. Now, and taking multivitamins, actually worth it. All right, depends on the individual. If you have a really good food intake, I don't take multis personally at the moment because I have a really good food intake. I eat, 4 or 5 serves of veggies a day. I eat a couple of serves of fruit. I eat whole grains. I have a massive variety in my diet that I don't need a multivitamin. For example, if you're someone that doesn't eat a lot of vegetables, a lot of fruit, a lot of vitamins and minerals like whole grains, so you're missing out on B vitamins, then I would suggest taking a multi. But at the end of the day, I never recommend supplements. Like, food is first. Food is the most important thing and it's going to be much better absorbed than, any multivitamin that you can take. Eat the food. And the other big thing is if you're unsure, there's no reason to just cram supplements into your body if you don't know if they're going to have a benefit or not. So the biggest thing is I would probably get some testing done, like see if you're deficient in anything, see if there's something you really need to work into your diet, but always food first, and then if you need to factor in supplements, definitely, like, factor things in, like, vegetarians, for example. I recommend my vegetarian clients get their iron checked and potentially use iron supplements. Do I tell all of my clients to take iron? No, that would be silly. If they are eating meat and they're, good absorption, then there's no problem there. So I guess, Zoe, the biggest thing is you don't need to take stuff and just spend money on things if you don't actually need it in your diet. If you have a good diet, I can guarantee you that you probably don't need a multivitamin on top of things. But there might be certain nutrients you want to throw in. So for example, I think that a lot of people in Australia are deficient in zinc. So I take a zinc supplement. I also take magnesium because I train heavy and hard, and I probably don't get enough from my diet. And then the other big ones is I generally take fish oil, or I'll consume salmon or healthy fats. But if I'm not eating that, say when I'm dieting and I'm eating a lower fat content maybe, I might then, add that in as well. So, and then another one for me is probiotics because I've got a bit of irritable bowel and that really helps with my gut flora and fauna. So I think at the end of the day, focus on like what you need when it comes down to subs, and be mindful when you're buying things. Like, don't just spend money because you honestly just have expensive urine and not actually have any effect, because that's what happens. You basically excrete most of it if your body doesn't need it and won't get absorbed. So in terms of that, just be careful when it comes to buying things. Obviously be careful in like supplement stores, stuff like that. They're there to sell you products. So at the end of the day, focus on your diet, focus on your training, the variables you can control, and then if you want to throw another variable in and spend money, be sure that you check either with a GP or a doctor whether you should be having it. Again, that's why I don't really recommend to the general public in terms of supplements. I like lots of my clients to get recommendations from doctors, all of that, whenever we're kind of throwing anything in. So yeah, guys, that's kind of the last question I'll do for tonight on these ones. I think that, oh my God, there's so many questions. Thanks, Em. Hi, Tash. Oh my God, so many questions. All right, I'll do one more for my client, James, because he's a legend. Hi, James. Just wondering, with post-comp, would you recommend someone doing a mini cut if their bulk went a little too well? Yeah, so if they gain excessive body fat, I've done it before. I gained a lot of fat after my last show. I went to America and I pretty much ate America, and I did not reverse diet the proper way you're supposed to. I did a video about it on YouTube. Nobody is perfect, and I would not recommend that. So yeah, you can do one. I don't know. It depends how long it's been, James. Like if it's been a good 20, 30 weeks of reversing and they're at that body fat now, then yeah, it might be time for a little mini cut or something like that if they're feeling uncomfortable, if they're sluggish, if their training's, you know, becoming more negative. And that's the thing at the end of the day, is that excessive body fat is not a good thing from a health standpoint as much as being too lean is. It's about that middle ground and being at a healthy body fat range. Now, 20% body fat is not actually that bad when you comment that, if we're talking in terms of a DEXA. So for a guy, that might be a little bit high, but for a girl, that's actually not that high. So a healthy range for a girl in terms of like a DEXA scan body fat is anywhere, I think, from about 15 to 25%, I believe. I'm trying to remember off the top of my head. Again, did a YouTube video about this. I had mine done recently on DEXA and I was 21, so very healthy there. And then I'm gonna, you know, see that throughout comp prep. But for a guy, I think it's anywhere between 10 and 20 is ideally where you kind of want to sit you around. But yeah, so I would say that's not a bad idea, but it's obviously not what we encourage. We want to try to do it in a healthy fashion, but I have done that with clients before where they've just gone on holidays, gone a bit YOLO, and then come back and I've been like, all right, we need to tidy it up for a few weeks before we go back into a muscle building phase, because all you've really put on in the last few weeks is fat. And that's not going to really help with your overall composition. So definitely, and that might be a case of maybe even just throwing in a little bit of cardio, or just doing a small cut, just these little things, either getting them moving more or a little bit of a deficit. So thank you, James. All right, we have got a lot of questions tonight. All right, that is it. Oh, thanks, Polly. Got all these compliments tonight. Look at you guys go. It's been a big day, and then it's been a big week actually. Okay, so I think I've pretty much covered everything. Yes, yeah, expensive urine, exactly, Dash. Nobody wants that. So that is it, guys. I hope this really helped. As said, there is a dieting cheat sheet up the top. There's 5 really awesome tips, and I've put it together in an ebook, and it's a good, like, I think it's 10 or 15 pages that you get. So you can jump on that link, and then when you jump on that link, you also get my daily rant emails. I say daily, but they're really not daily because I usually do them 3 or 4 times a week, and I kind of tie them in with podcast content as well. I've got 2 new podcasts coming up in the next few days. So one that I filmed yesterday, I've done one on hybrid training and different forms of training, and then the other one is on mobility work and warm up. So there will be some cool videos to, podcasts to listen to. And the other big thing is I just want to talk briefly about the program that I am running at the moment, which is Breakthrough. It is freaking awesome. It's probably the thing, I get all emotional talking about it, because honestly, like, the women in the first week, and it made me cry, like probably every second day. And my other 2 coaches in it, Jess and Jason, Jason's a mastermind NLP practitioner, and he does all the mindset stuff, because obviously that's not my area of expertise. I'm pretty good at motivating people and uplifting them, but I definitely don't claim to be any sort of guru when it comes to mindset. So I handball that to him, and it's amazing having a different brain in there, and the women just love him. Like, it's just crazy. So basically what we're doing in the program is we're breaking through all the issues holding people back, whether that be yo-yo dieting, whether that be, he deals a lot more with the sort of the binge eating and issues around that. Again, more his area of expertise. And then Jess is awesome as well, my other coach there, and she helps a lot with accountability and helping with like tips for food and recipes and just kind of being a part of the community, because I've run things like this before, and to be honest, it's very hard running it just with me. I want to have so much involvement, but when you're doing so many things, it makes it difficult. So I've taken them on board and we've been able to grow it, and it's just been insane. The women in there, they're eating more food, they're training less, they're learning to love themselves again, love their bodies, get their sex drive back, you know, all of these sort of things, feeling more confident. And one of them, my kid in there, Sharon, she's awesome. I don't know if she's watching, but Shaz is a mum of 2, and she was, you know, down in the dumps when she started, hating her body, hating her life, feeling unmotivated. And she always jokes in the group, she's like, the old Shaz is back from, you know, before I had kids, and I'm feeling pumped and motivated. And it's so nice seeing that, because for me, fat loss, and that hasn't even been our goal yet. We haven't even got to the fat loss phase yet, which we start now. But just doing that first 8 weeks of building the metabolism and taking care of all the mindset shit that's holding these people back has just been insane, and I've loved it. And I know I'm getting a little emotional now, but I've done challenges before in the past, you know, 8, 10, 12 weeks of dieting, and we've just gone straight into it. But I feel like this is awesome because it really sets people up in a good place where before they even start thinking about calorie deficits and understanding macros, we're just learning about the person and understanding more about them as a human being. And I think that that's really important to see. A coach shouldn't just see you as a number. They should see you as a human and you know, understand and respect your lifestyle. And there's so many mums in there. You know, there's, you know, we are such a community. We post like photos about dogs and like things we're doing, and it's really cool. And you know, there's no negativity. When we do have negativity or someone has a bad day, everyone picks each other up and gets back on with it. And I know I'm very tough love to my clients, but it is because tough love gets results. And if I was just sitting around patting them on the back saying it's okay, we wouldn't get anywhere. So it's a case of, you know, that compliment sandwich, like, okay, yeah, that's not going so well, but like, let's focus on this and push forward. So anyway, that is the program. We do have another intake, basically at once a month, we're gonna have an intake. So that's what we're gonna do. So if you do wanna inquire about that, it's pretty awesome. We're gonna have, I think, 4 more spaces opening for intake. And then if you want to inquire about that, basically all you just have to do is just inbox me on here your email address and just say I need help or I want to break through, anything kind of mentioning that, and I'll let you book in a call with myself or Jace. We're going to have a couple of spots available next week. We are very busy, especially me, so I'm just opening up a couple of time slots. But if that's something that you think would suit you and would be really helpful in your life, then I definitely think that it's an amazing program, and we're really blessed with the people that are in it, and you know, they're blessed to be a part of it because I think it's pretty epic. But anyway, not a sales pitch for that. I'm here to talk about diets, and I look forward to chatting to you tomorrow. Now tomorrow is Friday, so I'm gonna try not to be on my computer at night because I do actually have a life and probably want to spend time with my partner and my dogs. So I'm probably going to go Facebook Live in the morning. So if you can comment times that would work in the morning. I'm not a super morning person, but yeah, like what time you go to work, whether it's 7, 8 or 9, I'm kind of looking around those times. Or it might be midday on lunchtime. So comment what time would work for you tomorrow if you want to jump on live and you got any pressing questions, but I will leave all the questions there tonight. Have an awesome evening. And like I said, inbox me if you want to ask about the program and grab your free cheat sheet above. See ya.